This program is brought to you by NewsClipTV.com. Make your own news. Register online and become a NewsClip TV reporter. NewsClip TV, your community news website.
Good morning to all of you. My name is Mike Pizak, and welcome to another installment of Entrepreneurial Ideas. This morning I have the very good fortune of having Mr. Ron Foxcroft with me. I've known Ron for about 25 years in various capacities. He is the owner and president of Fluke Transport and has a number of other enterprises on the go. Ron, thank you very, very much. It's been great speaking with you off camera here, and welcome to the show.
My pleasure. When we met and you said I refereed you when you played high school basketball, I always stand back and say, oh, how many bad calls did I make against you?
I'm sure you made many, many good ones. I probably deserved it all and more. So what I'd like to talk about is the state of innovation and entrepreneurship in Hamilton, Ontario, in Canada in general, and then secondly, as I say, the Fox 40 whistle and maybe Fluke Transport, which everybody knows by its tagline. My students, both at McMaster and Mohawk, if I say, if it's on time, they can complete it every single time. So your branding is working.
We work hard on that brand. Yeah.
Very, very, very good. So here, one of the things that we've explored in other segments and installments is the idea of whether it's important to create a climate, a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship within a community. And then secondly, how does one do that? And it seems to me that's the money question. Absolutely. So let's start with, is it important? And then what would your views be on what can we do better to try to foster a climate of that in this area?
Is it important? Absolutely important. And I look at our companies and are we doing the same thing today that we did 5 years ago? No, because if we continue to do the same thing, we're going to get the same bad results. And I always say to our people, never ever come back and say, if I ask you, why are we doing it this way? And the answer that drives me crazy if they say this, and they don't say this in my company, is, well, because I've always done it that way. Right. And Ron Joyce from Tim Hortons taught me a long time ago, good is not good enough. Good means you have to get better. We have great labor, great innovation, just tremendous manufacturing. I do my manufacturing in Fox 40, and I'm proud of it, for the last 25 years in Canada, because we don't want to give up quality control. What we've learned by selling internationally is how to communicate, how to market, and how to sell.
Very good. Now, certainly that whistle that you speak of, it's surely gone through a number of innovations and iterations over the years. It's not the same whistle as 25 years ago.
No,
it's branched off into lots of different things.
I have a theory: always hire people smarter than you at what they do. And when we came up with the idea of a P-less whistle, everybody in the world said to me, a P-less whistle? That is nuts. That is crazy. Well, I said, I'm not a designer, I'm not an engineer. Really, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, a master of none. So very early I learned, well, why don't I go out and find the best design engineer that I can find? And I did. I found a fellow, he passed away, but he worked with me on the Fox 40 project, and we spent 3.5 years designing the whistle. And at first, Chuck Shepard wouldn't take the assignment, and I was leaving his office one day before we had contracted to do the Fox 40 assignment, and he said, a P-less whistle, it'll never sell. It's not a very good idea. I'm going out the door, and he turned to me and he said, just a minute, aren't you that guy that has that trucking company with that famous slogan, if it arrives on time, it's a fluke? And I said, yeah, I am. He says, you sound like a fun guy. Let's do the project.
Wow,
so we spent 3.5 years, 14 prototypes, $150,000, $150,000 of money I didn't have, borrowed it, I didn't steal it, I begged for it, I got credit from everybody, including Chuck, and 3.5 years later, we had 2 prototypes, and I had a debt of $150,000, which was $75,000 a whistle. And Chuck said something to me that has stuck with me for 25 years. He said, Ron, we've just designed the best whistle in the world. You have to promise me you'll dedicate your life, the rest of your life, to making it better. That was a message that stuck with me, that you can never stay in business status quo. Yes. And we had done the best whistle in the world. It clearly was the best whistle in the world. It wouldn't fail. It was 125 decibels. And he said to me, dedicate your life to making it better. And the last 25 years, we've made 15 models and all kinds of changes. And
so it's evolved.
Yeah, we as a company have dedicated ourselves to making it better. And in 2012, when we're filming this segment, we're going to announce 2 better Fox 40 whistle models.
Yes.
As a Canadian, I refereed the Olympic gold medal basketball game in 1976, and it was just such a proud moment to do it as a Canadian and represent your country. There's nothing like representing your country. But during that game, there was a foul, and at a very important time in that game, and there was 18,000 fans, and there was a foul on Adrian Dantley, who had a great college career,
Yes,
went on to play in the NBA,
right. Notre Dame,
and played at Notre Dame. And there was a foul on him, and I blew my whistle with the little P in it, and the little P got stuck. And this is the Olympic gold medal game. And I thought to myself, if I ever get through this moment, life's most embarrassing moment, the Olympic final, I got to do something about this whistle. And that's when the first thought came into my mind. But I didn't do anything about it. It's like you can walk down here on King Street and come up with, in 2 hours, you can come up with 10 better new ideas, but not do anything about it.
That's right.
And my greatest failure was not to do anything about it at the time. So finally, I signed a contract right after the Olympic final to be the first and last Canadian to referee in the NCAA. And everywhere I went, the Astrodome, the Superdome, North Carolina, Duke, Notre Dame, went to Poly Pavilion, I'd blow this P whistle, and in a big crowd, the harder you blow the whistle, the more the P would get stuck. And it just kept riveting in my P brain that there's something wrong with this whistle.
Yes.
Finally, in 1984, I went to the pre-Olympics in Sao Paulo, Brazil, did the final, and the difference between a crowd at the Olympics in Montreal in '76 and a crowd in Brazil in 1984 is simple. They shoot referees in Brazil. And I remember there was 9 seconds to go in the game, and I blew a foul. The Brazilian player got fouled, and my P got stuck in the whistle. And there was a riot, and I laid on the floor, and I looked up, and I said, if I live, because the foul was against Brazil, if I live, I'm going to go home and design a P-less whistle.
Right.
And that was the moment. It was May of 1984. Funny thing, I came home, and I went to my best buddy, and then I went to my wife, and I said to my best buddy, I'm going to design a P-less whistle. And he turned to me and said, you've been out in the sun in Brazil too long without a hat. And I said to Marie, who knew basketball, played on the Bishop Ryan team that won 3 offices, and I said, Marie, I'm going to do a P-less whistle. She says, you have confirmed that you have gone crazy when you're in Brazil.
Something?
So nobody
Believed,
said
eh?
it would happen.
Now, one of the things that that we've sort of touched on in a way is that if somebody came up with another idea, and it sounds like you had to sort of work around n number of obstacles and people
Yeah.
naysaying and things like that, Are there assists out there today that might not have been around 25 years ago in the form of economic development and small business enterprises and Business Development Bank of Canada and all these government, quasi-governmental groups? Do you think that they have a role to play? Whether, and here I can add Innovation Factory. We're going to have Ron Newman in, later on to talk about that. So, do you think that there's a role for these groups to be playing in helping the up and coming entrepreneur? You can take each one of them if you will.
I want to talk about specifically maybe about three things. You see, back in my day, those enterprises were not available.
That's right.
And I look around here today and see the Innovation Factory out there on Longwood Road.
That's right.
It's tremendous. They've just had the Lion's Lair where they featured 10 entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And entrepreneurs should be celebrated. They should be celebrated basically for their courage, because it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of sacrifice, it takes commitment, it takes passion, and all those things together. And Ron Newman and everybody out at the Innovation Factory have done such an amazing job. And now we've just completed the Lion's Lair, and it's been fantastic.
That's right.
The other thing, and they never get enough credit, are the economic development departments, particularly in Hamilton, headed by Neil Everson and Tim McCabe and so on, and in Burlington, they call it the BEDC. There's no better place to do business than Hamilton and Burlington, simply because they encourage you. The economic development department can give you assistance like there's not available anywhere else. So I think in Hamilton and in Burlington, we're probably on a leading edge of entrepreneurial innovation. What I learned in developing the Fox 40, I learned that perseverance pays off. If you really know, if you want to know something about a truck, ask the mechanic and the driver. Don't ask the owner of the trucking company.
That's right.
And
or the salesperson.
Exactly, that's right. So in McMaster, Mohawk, and Redeemer, and so on, we're learning basic fundamentals. We're learning discipline. We're enlarging our brains at McMaster and Mohawk. Now what we need is that practical, shall we say, in the saddle advice. I would encourage McMaster and Mohawk in these schools to get real life business people. Listen to their stories. And if you had them come into the classes at Mac and Mohawk and Redeemer, and you learn one thing from each person that you can't learn everything. Nobody knows all the answers. But if you had a Ron Joyce come in and you learn one thing from Ron Joyce, you'd learn that good is not good enough. From me, you would learn the importance of advertising, marketing, merchandising, and automating. And Mike DeGroot, you'd learn toughness. You'd learn how to read people and so on. And you have to realize when you're in business, it would be, if everybody was in their own business, it would be easy. It's not easy. And you just got to keep going. It's lonely, it's hard, but you just got to keep going, and you got to learn from your mistakes. I wanted to be an accountant. I wanted to be two things, a gym teacher and an accountant. I was too dumb in school to do either. So now I have a business. It's my job to create a motivational environment for all my people to succeed. So it's very important that I hire an accountant smarter than me, a marketing man smarter than me, a salesman smarter than me, packager smarter than me. So it's very important to realize you haven't got all the answers, but you can hire people and watch them succeed at what they're good at. Everybody has a specialty. In other words, you don't hire an electrician to do a plumber's job, and vice versa.
Now, we've been talking about entrepreneurs and innovation. In your view, are entrepreneurs born, or can we shape and make them? Can we help them, do you think? It's the age-old, eternal question.
They're made. They're manufactured. They're not born. So everybody, all of your students, have an opportunity to become entrepreneurs. So are entrepreneurs born? Nope. They're manufactured. And this one was made in Canada.
In Hamilton, no less.
In Hamilton, right.
Very good, very good. Great story.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very
Right.
much for joining us today, and I thank everybody for sitting in and observing, and Ron, some great pieces of advice and wisdom, and it's fabulous to have renewed your acquaintance. Great talk.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
a lot.
Thank
Fabulous.
you.